Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the next episode on the 2022 astrological panel. Today, I am joined by an amazing astrologer that I've been following for many years. Not only is Cassandra's articulation and precision something that I really enjoy in astrology, but her traditional, being a traditional astrologer and listening to traditional astrologers speak is really great for me because I'm not a traditional astrologer. So but I work with perfections and things like that, but I love to really feel this deep richness. So to actually have Cassandra here, hopefully most of you know her, is an absolute pleasure and blessing. So thank you so much for joining, Cass.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. I seem so precise because I feel like a scatterbrain most of the time.
No.
That, but we're all our own worst critics, right?
Yes. No, yeah. Not at all. No.
So thank you.
I see you as really, I love listening to you. Like I was listening to something that you did ages ago and, me and my husband, he was sort of listening in the background. He's like, oh, she sounds like a university teacher. I'm like, yeah. I said, she could teach. The way she teaches astrology is very like university style. As much as you might think you're scattered, the way it comes across is really meticulous and articulate. Like I said, quite precise. And it's always very fascinating to me because traditional isn't my lineage. And I just love to learn all Hellenistic stuff. So yeah, it's awesome to have you as a guest.
Well, yeah, to be honest, traditional wasn't like my bag baby either at the start because learning in that style just wasn't available back in the early 2000s. So I took the modern sort of psychological route, and because, I took my first class not even knowing like anything else. No idea about my ascendant, no idea about my moon or anything else. I was a total little lamb went into this class because I just loved horoscopes and been doing it for, reading and things like that since I was a kid. And then there was this one point in my studies where we looked at the table of essential dignities and I'm like, I need to know more about this. And then I think it was probably about 2005, perhaps, I met an astrologer who's based in San Francisco, and he was learning with Robert Schmidt and Rob Zoller and stuff like that. And I was like, just, this is snail mail, no social media, not snail mail, but like digital snail mail, emails, right? And I just kind of, it all just kind of happened. I think I connected with Chris like 2008, and I was just really fortunate to kind of
Chris Brennan.
I was really just kind of fortunate to make online friends with people who were sort of in, the same mindset as me, roughly my age, group of like this new wave astrology that was coming through. So, and now like this is sort of the entry point. So things have really changed for the way that the kids are learning these days, which is exciting for them. Yeah.
And so is that back in those 2000s, obviously, as everyone knows, listening to me, I always ask the astrologer, what got you into it? So you were modern first and just, did that class, 20 years ago. And how has the journey been for you? How is astrology integrated into your life and embodied and practiced, Cass?
That's a good question. One thing I find when talking with students is like once you've got your, foundational or grasp of the language, it's something that it just changes the lens that you look through life. You're more in tune with the energy. You're more, you meet people and you kind of like, in your mind, you summon them up, or, you're in a funk yourself and you can say, this is the way it is. And then you can look at the timing and go, well, Uranus is doing this, for instance, and it's only going to happen, for the next like 6 months or what have you, and gives you just that sort of scaffolding to understand the lay of the land or the map. And when you can get that signal and tune into that GPS, it's just a way to navigate life. So, it's, I don't know, I don't really know what life is like without it. So I kind of, it's definitely yeah, it changes a lot of things, you know, when you understand and can tune into the signs and symbols, for sure.
I just want to say that just before we continue and where we want to go, because you're breaking up a lot.
All right.
Your internet sort of completely stopping and then coming back. I don't know if I'm missing too much.
Oh, well, yours seems to be doing the same. So
yeah,
maybe
it must
it's
just be the signal today.
Yeah, the wind and the storms and all the things that
yeah,
we're
but
experiencing.
I don't think that we're missing anything in verbal. So I think that we're okay. It's you know, it's a part of it. It's a part of
Mercury is retrograde after all.
That's right. And what I did love is that word that you've used, scaffolding. And I'm the same too. You know, astrology's been my language since I was 9. I mean, I don't know how to live without it. Like, what's life? You know, I never came into it in my 20s or my 30s. It was like literally like my whole language growing up. So I didn't know what it's like to not be it. Like, so it's normal. It's like breathing. It's like brushing my teeth. But then, of course, you deepen. And like you said, you know, there's a beautiful entry point, but it can take you into different areas. You know, you can start modern or you can go into medical, or there's just it's infinite rabbit hole of potential and glory and deliciousness. I mean, there's no right or wrong way, and that's what I love about astrology. It doesn't matter if you're a whole sign or a placidus. Like, there's no right or wrong in that. You know, you practice what feels right for you, and it's nice, and that's why I embody all astrology. Like, I love traditional, I love EA, I love like, I just, you know, I love it all. Like, to me, I couldn't go, well, I'm only this. Like, to say that to me, I would just be like, no, thank you. Like, I can't be only one thing. I need to, you know, I want to absorb it all. So the scaffolding word, I'm just like hanging on, like, I'm loving that word because it really is the setup and the structure. And when we do understand what's going on, life is actually a lot easier, even in the trauma or even in the hardship.
Yeah, it's just such a tool to shed light on the parts of ourselves that we always had, but life turns us away from it for one reason or another. Maybe it was or maybe something that your parents said to you when you were young, or a job that you thought you had to take. And with every step in life, we in various ways we lose our path. And then sometimes a lot of the time, astrology, as I like to call it, like, you know, the stars is like, you know, the internet signal, and we just need to find the password, and then we can connect to that, and it becomes like a GPS of the way that we can map our life or map our experiences more than anything else. You know, when you have that understanding or that awareness, it's like, okay, I have the diagnosis now, or I have the tools, or I have the compass, I have the path. Now I just have to take the steps moving forward. So yeah, what would we do without it, right?
I know, it's just everything. And so many of the answers that I've asked each astrologer, so many came in at Saturn return, places like that where people are looking for help, maybe at Saturn return, or in those times, even, you know, that midlife crisis from 36 to 42 with, you know, Pluto squares and Neptune squares and Uranus oppositions. And, you know, these tumultuous times, people might look outside of themselves, but what they don't know is astrology actually is us. So, you know, you're actually coming back home. So it doesn't matter what age, it's just always the right time. It's just divine listening to everyone's stories. Anyway, let me get on with this actual why I've asked
Chitty
Cassandra
chat.
here. Yes, exactly, because we'll be here for hours otherwise, and we know that we can easily do that as astrologers. It's one of our like little things that we can easily do. I'm super excited about this transit, but also really fascinated to hear of Cassandra's take on this, because this transit is a big one. You know, it's a once in every 2 years. Mars does his retrograde in different signs, and, you know, our last Mars retrograde was in Aries in 2020, which was just the fire. You know, he was in his home sign. It was, you know, it was really cool. I really enjoyed it, but I must admit, you know, it was opposing all of my Libra stellium and ascendant. So it was just like, it was really full. But this Gemini one's really unique and different. And I'm really keen to unpack this so that we can all dive into this very long Mars in Gemini transit of 2022. So let's allow Cass, as you know, I'm going to sit back now. Everyone watches my normal little thing here. I sit back, I put mute on until I feel like I need to jump in, but I just want to.
Oh, no, you jump in anytime. Okay. It is a Mars retrograde Gemini chat. So let's just be random.
True.
Okay. So there's a few things. Let's, you know, it's Gemini. So let's get the details off the bat first up. So Mars will first move into Gemini on August 20, and it will be there until March 3. I know it sounds like a fair way away, right?
You just missed, that's where you just cut out there. You said August 20 until?
March 25.
March 25, yes, thank you.
Of 2023.
Exactly.
So it sounds like a long way away, but it'll be there before you know it. So, yeah, like a transit that would usually take 6 weeks is going to take 7 months. So the retrograde phase is between October 30 and January 2023. So on October 25 degrees of Gemini, and then I'm going back again, and it will continue to move back through until about 8. So if you have planets in Gemini, particularly between that 25 to 8 degrees, so planets, angles, or important points, then this is going to register on your radar. Now, that being said, Mars in Gemini, it's not this retrograde in Gemini is not an energy. We haven't all. Venus went retrograde in Gemini. 2021, Mercury went retrograde in Gemini, and we've had eclipses in Gemini. So it's not a new feeling. Like, it's going to be, same, but different, if you like. So the particular house in your birth chart that holds the sign of Gemini is going to, be up for a retrograde again. So there's a lot of emphasis and a lot of focus in this particular part of the sky. One particular change that, is that the node will leave Gemini, and that happens in January. So by the time Mars gets there, it will be more of a fresh influx of that into that house. So that's that, the dates and details. So how would I describe Mars in Gemini just as a regular sort of thing? I always get the image of, I think it might be Nemo or Dory, one of those fish, I can't remember, but where you're kind of going in this direction, and then it's shadow in that direction.
That's definitely Dory.
Okay, right, thank you. So you watch these shows with your kids, only half like paying attention, and so there is a scattered quality to Mars in Gemini. It's this starting something, not finishing something, or getting bored easily, not because of apathy or indifference, but the curiosity. Like, that's one of the key words for Gemini. It is a curious kind of sign. Arc of curiosity or intrigue or what have you diminishes. It's like, right, next. So there is this feeling of like a lot of pots on the boil when Mars moves through Gemini. It can be a busy time socially as well. Gemini is a very sort of social, curious, very mutable. That's one of the modalities, is that mutability there. It's adaptable, it's changeable. And one thing that I experience is the real oscillation between high energy output and then fatigue. Like, you can be go, this is great, Mars retrograde, yeah, right. And then before you know it, you hit that wall. And I think that can be something that tends to happen to the mutable signs as a general rule. So we're talking Gemini, Virgo, Sag, and Pisces. And that's, when you think about what mutable means, it tends to take on the qualities of both the cardinal and the fixed. So it can take, let's do the thing, just do it, get your Nike on kind of thing, and then fixed. So when Mars is in a mutable sign in particular and retrograding in a mutable sign, I do feel that sort of dichotomy or that duality can be very amplified, if you like. So that's something to watch for. Mars in Gemini, of course, it's air, and air has been a key feature of 2021 and 2022 as well. And so Mars is going to sort of set off that cerebral, that informational, or that air space. So it's not grounded. Okay. It's like a cat on a hot tin roof type of energy there when we're talking Mars in Gemini in general. So it is high energy, it's high cerebral activity, it has a mental buzz to it. And, you know, that can get a rocket up some people, you know, and then in other people, it can be too much. So again, that we could oscillate between both. So it is a little bit, I don't know, like I have Gemini rising, so and with Mercury and Jupiter. So yeah, that's you know, that's how we work, right? So can be massive output of creation or what have you, and then, you know, hit the wall sort of thing. Now, so when we are looking at Mars and Gemini, what we really want to I guess there's the planetary aspects, but before we get to that point, we really need to consider is what Mercury is doing through the retrograde. So Mercury being the ruler of Gemini, so Mars, as it tours that sign, is looking to Mercury for help or support, or, you know, Mercury is the manager. So it's like, you go to work. Guidance. What do I do? What do I do? Right.
Yeah.
And so if you can, you know, if for those who are a little bit more tuned into planetary speed, so, you know, Mercury covers a lot of ground in 7 months. So there's going to be a lot of iteration. Mars retrograde. It's going to be a very, as you would expect from Gemini, it's going to be a very changeable style of retrograde. How it starts won't be how it, you know, won't be the, you know, the mid-season, and then of course the end of the tour and the encore and, you know, the sequel and all the things. It's just going to be very, very a little bit crazy in that respect. So there's, I think when we know that, then we can sort of like, you know, take our breath and go, okay, well, this is going to be energy in this direction. And then when we, you know, move into another like an installment of Mercury's movement, then we can focus in a little bit differently. So as Mars in Gemini moves into you know, once Mars moves into Gemini, we will have Mercury will be in Virgo. Okay, so that'll be a good start, you know, like, I don't know what you call it in cricket, you know, off to a good start sort of thing. Cricket, whatever. So that's a nice start to this particular transit. Then Mercury will move into Libra, and then it'll be, you know, early into Libra, and then of course we get a retrograde. So we not only have Mars retrograde by this point in time, or Mars is in, sorry, I'll take that back, Mars isn't retrograde yet, but Mars will be in Gemini looking to retrograde Mercury. So this will be a preamble, if you like, to what will be coming once we get to the end of October. So we have Mars moving, and then it's going back, Mercury, Libra, Virgo, Mercury, Virgo, Libra, and then it'll come back to Virgo, Libra, right? So there is this sort of on again, off again energy in this first part of the of this cycle. So it is, you know, I feel like I'm channeling the madness already. So yeah, we have Mercury, Mars looking to Virgo, then it's looking to Libra, and then of course Mercury retrograde. So it is this one step forward, two steps back kind of energy coming through. As far as which will maybe be a little bit of a stillness as we start the retrograde, is that
what was that?
Something that I've put on my radar is that might help to give a little bit of stillness to the retrograde, because it starts off a bit crazy, you know, with Mercury being retrograde pretty quickly. And that is that when Mars stations retrograde, Mercury will then drop into Scorpio. Okay. Hold a little bit of space, if you like, or a little bit of stillness. And it's like Scorpio going, hey there, buddy, like just take a chill pill. Let's just go deep. Let's go slow. Let's just kind of strategize rather than be kind of all crazy about it. Now, why I think this is really interesting is because Gemini is the 8th sign from Scorpio. So Gemini, Scorpio has a really interesting relationship. And maybe it's my personal bias, but we're not as airbrained as we have the reputation to be. I think Mercury can really that we often overlook in astrology, because Mercury is the twin, so it's always showing different facets of that being. So I think when Mercury moves into Scorpio, that's really going to sort of shift the energy of that. Now, when that happens too, wait, there's more. We also have Jupiter will then come back into Pisces as Mercury Mars stations retrograde. So we'll then have that Mars squared. There's so much going on. So what I really want to hone in on for everybody that's listening is that the phase of Mercury in Scorpio will happen from around sort of Halloween next year through until around November sort of 17, 18, depending on the time zone. So like for me, for my money, this is the nicer part of the Mars retrograde phase. It's looking to Scorpio, and of course Mercury will then, try and do sort of, I don't know, stillness, emotion, support in that way, where Mars in Gemini can just be so cerebral and, it's like get your head out of the clouds, or just, take a breath. And I think that period of time will be ideal for that. So yeah, that is that. And then of course, once Mercury has done its, dance through Scorpio, then it will burst into Sag, right? And that will sort of take us through until quickly by that stage. So what will happen then is that we'll have this like Mars Mercury opposition. So Mars is moving backwards and it's looking to Mercury and Sag. So there is a bit of reception there, but that will also be, I don't know, I feel like a bit of a logistical nightmare maybe around that period of time. And then of course, by the time we get to December, around December 6th, Mercury will then drop into Capricorn. Okay. And then that will sort of set the stage Mercury while Mars is in Gemini. So Mars is having to wrangle with not only these constant sign changes of Mercury, but also 2 Mercury retrogrades in this particular phase. So it's a lot. And I haven't even discussed aspects yet. But I think that's probably like, there's a lot. And so we have the sextile with Jupiter and Aries. We have the square with where Jupiter goes back into Pisces. We have the trine to Saturn. So it's big. And I really do think that, so what happens mid-year astrologically is all the outer planets will shift from the yin or feminine or receptive planets and move into the yang. So what I think this Mars retrograde is sort of going to be doing is priming us for this sort of, the handover as the bigger planets start to shift and move into signs. So by the time, Mercury finds Gemini at the end of March, that is when Pluto moves into Aquarius for the first time. So it's like Mars is handing over to this, like, we've had Pluto in Capricorn since like feels like forever, 2008. Mars exits, yang, vibrant Gemini, and hands over to Pluto, who then moves into Aquarius just for a taste tester. So I really do think that this retrograde, this long journey of Mars in Gemini, is the primer or the appetizer that we're collectively moving through and into. So it's huge.
The primer and the appetizer, you just cut out there, primer and appetizer for Pluto to move into Aquarius, Cass.
Yeah, well, Pluto is going to be sort of the first cab off the rank when it comes to all of these outer planets starting to move. You have Pluto moving into Capricorn. We'll eventually have Neptune moving into Aries, Uranus moving into Gemini. So, those 3 outer planets have been in the yin or and then Mars sort of hands off to Pluto, and then it starts to become a little bit of a domino effect. We get that sort of a taste of what the shift will be like when we look at the astrology of the 2020s, if you like. So, I think this is a really big transit for the year. Now, one other thing, October, I think, is the key month for the Mars retrograde, because when Mercury is also in Scorpio, we will also have eclipses. So we'll have 2 lunations, the full moon in Aries and the new moon in Scorpio. So that will really pink these lunations. So the full moon in Aries is just a regular full moon, but the new moon in Scorpio is a solar south node eclipse. And, you know, look, in Mars is the ruler of that going backwards. So that's going to be like a real purgative, spiritualizing type of eclipse, I think. So it will be, you know, having a retrograde planet as a ruler of a south node solar eclipse, like shedding skin for sure, you know, being gentle there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's huge, like, and that's just the sort of third quarter really of 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 2022 has got so many huge things, and I think Kim Fairminer talked about it very in 2 sort of sections, you know. It seems like two parts, part 1 and part 2, and I really liked that. And her talk actually sort of not it's gentle with yours as well, because she was talking, her name for her talk was how to manage a spiritual hangover, Jupiter and Aries and Mars retrograde. So she sort of like touched on those things, but going deeper into actually Mars and unpacking Mars and what he's doing and what he's touching, and watching Mercury. I mean, because Mercury is so quick anyway, you know, it quickens up this Mars retrograde too. I feel like it's just going to fly, like, to be honest. I feel like it's just going to fly. And if we want to land and manifest and create things, Mars in Gemini gives us a great opportunity. But if we're scattering and fizzling out our matches every single where we go, we're not going to anchor anything in. So, and this is coming from a predominant Earth chart. So, you know, I'm all about manifesting, anchor, stay grounded. So I'm really, you know, wearying people to watch their mental health next year, especially with this Mars in Gemini transit, which does go from August through till March. It's long. So Mars in Gemini himself, and he's only there for a couple of months usually, this can be exciting and exhilarating, and we're going to feel all of those things. We've been feeling it now, like, you know, there's a lot of wiredness that we're feeling, and that's a big thing. And I really liked what you said around the sort of the highs and the lows of mutability, and I really see that, you know, in strong mutable people and strong mutable charts. Just, you know, it's it really nearly is like the match, just fire, and it can go out like that. Like, it literally is. I mean, I see Mars in Gemini as a match. That's my analogy for it. You flick that match, when you've got the energy, you still want to be grounded within what you're doing moving forward as well, instead of it just, you know, going, I've got 68 things to do, going to bed every night feeling unaccomplished. You know, it's actually about having, because you might be able to do a few projects at once. And that's what's great about Gemini is, you know, I've got Mercury in Gemini, as does Cass, and, you know, we're able to have tabs open and actually delegate and deal with quite a lot of things at once. Like, it's actually quite a little genius sort of thing that we get to do. So while Mars is there, he's going to be actually driving that energy. And like Cass said, like, for some people, this will be really igniting for them, whether it's in their business or home. And again, wherever it's happening and being activated in your own birth chart is going to show where this dynamic energy is needed. And maybe it is in the 4th house, so it's actually at home that you're needed in that time, or it is in the 7th and it's around the relationships. And it's going to really, it will really fire you up. As much as it's an air sign, there's still this sort of, like, you know, Mars is fire and action, and, you know, is this dynamic energy. So there's going to be this real, and fire and air together, it's this fuel, you know, it's either a fuel for friggin' crazy or a fuel for some really, really banging things to land.
Yeah, I think, like, when we have that Mercury and Scorpio transit, you know, Mercury and Mars will have reception, and, you know, I think this will help Mars in Gemini become intentional, and with a retrograde cycle as well in the mix, going to be helpful to, I guess, like with Mercury retrograde, like, I have this one of the ways I sort of teach it is that the journey of Mercury is, it's like kind of, it never strays too far from the sun, right? And so it comes forward, it comes back. And in ancient philosophy and traditional thought, the mind was actually the heart. And we often, but in the past, it was the heart. And so when we have these retrograde phases, and I think Mars sort of embodies this a bit, being in a Mercury ruled sign, is that when Mercury retrogrades, or Mars in this instance, and we have, the solar eclipse and all of that happening with Mercury in Scorpio. So if the heart is the mind, what these transits help us do is recognize how far our mind has strayed from our heart. And so the Mercury, particularly the eclipse period in October, can help us, get back into that sovereign, authentic space through the process of snake shedding skin, like the letting go of, the Scorpio stuff, the stuff that's really deep or toxic or hidden or what have you. So you can really unearth that. So there is a bit really like an underworld kind of Hades kind of component to this Mars retrograde, because Mercury is the only three realms, us mere mortals, the gods, and the underworld. So that's the journey of Mars. And Mars is a planet, to me, like, I think it's a kind of intentional bit, manifesting in the way it's like you decide and then you do, right? You follow through on the intentional ideas or actions. So I don't know, I think it's going to be really helpful to sort of sharpen the sword around the Gemini part of your birth chart, which we've had a few practice runs already, as I mentioned earlier, with the preview. So I think
with
it
the
can
preview
be
with the
busy,
nodes, did you say? With the eclipses?
Yeah, we had a preview with the current eclipse cycle, Mercury retrograde and Venus retrograde last year. So we've had a few like false starts or practice runs, and now Mars just comes through and just cut. So
and I wrote here that Mars is actioning the North Node stuff. So it feels like whatever we've been working on towards our destiny and our fate and all those synchronicities, especially if we've been doing the work around actually moving towards the North Node, using our head, having emotional intelligence, being discerning, and not just sort of dropping back into that Sagittarius South Node, which is quite out there at the moment. Then Mars is going to come in and just spend all this time here helping you to action that, which I think is exciting too. And definitely with as he retrogrades, Mercury being in Scorpio in Hades land with that psychopomp energy of being able to come back up and come back in, and we are being able to detach, which is a great thing. I mean, that's what I love about having a Mercury in Gemini. As much as it takes me on 8 million tangents and I never shut up, the thing is that I'm able to deliver the messages from Hades because I have Mercury and Gemini in the 8th house. So this is like my land. Like, this is how I work. And being in the 8th house, that's where my mind is. It's in the mysteries, it's in the occult, and I dive deep and I'm able to get the information, deliver it, but come back to the earth, get all the things and go back down again. And it's sort of like, I think I wrote the word investigative, it's going to kick the Mars retrograde off with this deep sense of nearly embodying the Mars retrograde as opposed to it just being in our head. So I love that head and heart analogy that you gave us there, Cass. That was really beautiful. How far have you strayed from your heart? I love that. That works really well, I think, with the beginning of this Mars retrograde. So love it.
I really think that could be a thing, because where we kind of act collectively at the moment, everything's kind of like data, facts. And it's like, but what about belief or the insurance? Which kind of feel like they're a little bit lost right now in with the South Node and Sag, and then sort of being emphasized, data, facts, misinformation, fact checking, all that sort of stuff that is kind of in the ethers right now. And so as Mars retrogrades and then Mercury goes into Gemini, there might be a little bit of a reactivation of the nodal cycle that we're sort of currently in right now. So I mean, it's really interesting to kind of, choose transits and, you know, watch and wait and see how it plays out collectively. But I do think overall it's going to be a little kind of messy and a little bit confusing, because throughout the entire journey of Mars in Gemini, it will be squaring Neptune.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's, you know, of course, trining Saturn as well. So it is sort of, it's, you know, messy.
It is. And what I, you know, I've already done my 2022 energy survival kit. So I've sort of lived 2022, and the Neptune Saturn thing with reality and illusion, and with Mars retrograding for such a long time in Gemini, and definitely peaking that square, you know, like at the beginning, like, you know, for quite some time, because he gets to 25 degrees and comes back. So really, you know, that whole, you know, month or whatever, we're getting that square to Neptune. So I want to see what month that is, because that would be, you know, that's a month to really pay attention, because
it's pretty and into November. Oh. Yeah, halfway through November. So
okay, sorry, because you cut out there. When was that? Sorry.
October. So it'll be kind of in orb from October through to November, about halfway through November.
Yeah, because Neptune gets to 23 degrees or even 24 next year. Yeah, 24, 25. Yeah, 25. Yes, I've just gone that bit further. It's like, there it is. Yeah, 25 degrees. So, you know, this Mars and but then we've got Saturn here, you know, and Saturn wants us to drop the illusion and live in reality. And, you know, that's, everyone that follows me knows that that's my foundation. It's all, you know, I'm not, oh yeah, everything's all spaced out. It's like, let's get to reality. So there's nearly a choice. And I've spoken about this with Michael Lennox, who is also on the panel, around the nodal transit as well. We're choosing love, or we're choosing reality, or we're choosing fear, or we're choosing illusion. And, you know, fear and illusion, all the things, like, because of the nodal shifts next year as well, but because of this as well. So this is a really fascinating thing to chew on as well, Cass, because that transit alone, when it just happens for a few days, normally you're going to, you know, it's going to be an interesting time, but this is happening for a while. And so, you know, I always say to people, watch, you know, even with Jupiter and Pisces next year and the Neptune conjunction and all the things, like, I'm like, watch taking drugs, watch your mental health, watch trying to escape reality, because it's going to seem really fucking enticing. And I'm telling you, you may not come back. And that's the thing, like these highly cerebral transits, when people get lost in acid trips, I can guarantee there's some sort of there's something going on in their chart that's kept them there, that's kept them stuck. And this isn't coming from fear of astrology. This is coming from Neptune is escapist, drugs, illusion, addiction. It's all of those things. And with Mars banging out there for so long, I mean, be mindful, you know, be very mindful of your mental health, what you're ingesting, what you're absorbing and consuming. Like, what are you listening to? What are you thinking about? What are you talking about? Who are you involved in? Your mental health next year, priority. Peace, priority. You know, I choose peace over fighting, and any day of the week. You know, I've got Mars in Taurus. So the thing is that I think that itself, Cass, is a really fascinating, you know, that orb itself is a really fascinating couple of months, because, you know, are you dropping into illusion? And even though I'm assuming, where's Saturn at that point? What degree is he? Is he late? 23. Yeah, he's 23. Yeah, so this is great. Saturn's actually anchoring us there. Like, if we move to Saturn, you know, if we turn to reality and trust that, that's going to be, to me, this incredible grounding, even though he's in an air sign, but this incredible anchor that we can really pull on.
Yeah, I think, like, from a tactical standpoint, it's like, you know, the Mars square Neptune piece can feel you know, overwhelming or discombobulating. You know, there might be so many options and just, you know, a flood of things. And, you know, Jupiter pinging all of that too, whether it's from Pisces or from Aries, it's just going to have this very, but I think the trine from Saturn, it's, you know, people who know me just know how much I love my medieval analogies and swords and fighting and stuff like that. And
you're a Viking at heart, aren't you?
Yeah, I am Scandinavian. So yeah, it's it is this kind of, you know, Saturn And Mars, it's like sharpen the sword. Like, where does that focus want to go? You know, like, you know, when you sharpen a knife, it's, you know, stone on. And so, you know, the Mars and Saturn are steels and stones. So it's kind of like the iron and stones. It's like when there's so many opportunities pinged by Jupiter, when there's so much overwhelm and confusion, or, you know, bottles of wine and Netflix.
Fogginess, exactly. It's just like being underwater. Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. I think that's a really great way to anchor that, Cassandra, is to sharpen the sword. And I hope that everyone remembers that analogy. I think that that's perfect. Yeah.
I just get the heart of the matter, right, when you use the old ways. But yeah, I do think that that's going to be something that can be really helpful. And, you know, don't be afraid to cut away options, to say no to things. You know, there's eclipse season in Scorpio, South Node solar eclipse in Scorpio. There will that potential be like a loss of some kind, but wherever, you know, one door closes, others open. And so sometimes, you know, if you think about, you know, the way, you know, composting, you know, like the waste, or doesn't mean you have to be gone, but you have that opportunity to repurpose it, or let that be the nutrients that, you know, stoke the fire moving forward. So I don't know, it's just such a juicy transit, I think. Like it's you know, because the last Mars transit, when it retrograded, was square Saturn. Now we have it trine Saturn. So yeah, I don't feel it's going to be heavy or like a grind like it did last time. I do think it of too many things.
Sorry, could you just repeat that bit? You don't think it's going to be heavy or a grind?
We've got a dodgy internet connection
today.
Good old Brisbane.
Yeah,
it's like when we had the last retrograde, it was a grind. Like you know, like I don't know if you like in powerlifting, like when you're trying to do a heavy bench and you're like grinding it out, just try to lock out, right? And so, you know, we call it a grinder. And that was like the last retrograde. Trying to say, I do feel like it has a little bit more of a, you know, maybe a place of support or stability around it. And Saturn will be making the, you know, be in the superior position to Mars as well. So you know, that's definitely going to add a little bit more of a Saturnian flavor. And while, you know, the Neptune and that is a part of it too, but Saturn is going to speak to more the tangible realities. Like you might want to do various options. Mars, the overcoming position is going to be, well, no, this is what you're doing. You know what I mean? And, you know, that may not be nice in some situations, right?
Yeah. And even just, you know, I mean, the lightness of Gemini, we can still plug into that, you know, the illusion of Neptune and the confusion and that sort of dissolving energy, but then we can also still remember Gemini is still curious and fun and chatty and social, and like still just dipping into that, like have some fun, carve out time for play, you know, read some books, sing some songs, you know, learn something new, study a language, like use it to your advantage. And that's why we do these things, to prep you to use these things for your advantage. So if you are actually feeling more that Neptunian stuff, yes, overwhelm or feeling foggy or confused, or you don't know what direction, cut it away, cut all caution to the wind and go and study something, go and enhance your mental capabilities and do something new. Like that's what Gemini is about. Like try something new, like let's break out of old molds. Yeah, absolutely. So there is this excitement to Mars in Gemini as well, like this retrograde. There is exciting, you know, there's exciting energy, but you must watch what's going on in the sky as well, and, you know, still stay cautious to you know, those elusive or you know, or scattered, confusing, overwhelming, crazy energies that it may bring as well. So lots of
100%
being on the earth, lots of feet on the earth, thumb on the earth, and it's an exciting time. I really I loved what you brought to that that conversation, Cassie, and sharing all of those, you know, real trials and tribulations that we're going to go through with Mars in Gemini. So yeah,
for sure.
Amazing. So thank you so much. It's been so
thank you.
amazing chatting, and thank you everyone for dealing with the sort of the cutting in and out. Obviously it's still recorded, and you know, we got there in the end. It's just, you know, Mercury is retrograde. It's, you know, we've got all the things going on at the moment. So
exactly, channeling it all.
We're channeling Mars retrograde now. I just have to say, like, because I've just been staring at you, you look like Madonna. Has anyone ever told you that?
Once or twice, sometimes. Yes. Emma Stone.
I just see Madonna, like, you know, when she, you know, went through that blonde, I don't know, just the same face structure, and just,
no, it's not. I'm a big Cancerian, round.
I think that round. I don't know. I just, the more I looked at you, your eyes, I was just like, I just see Madonna sitting in front of me. But anyway, I'm going to end with that.
Without
Sorry. What was that?
Madonna without all the filler. But anyway,
absolutely not a fake Madonna. I can just see Madonna-esque features. It just was very beautiful.
We'll start voguing or something.
It so is. I would be not surprised if people seen that in you. Anyway, thank you all so much for listening to
Lucky
our panel.
I'm a Madonna fan.
Good. I know she's a beautiful lioness, Leo. Thank you all so much for listening, and thank you again so much, Cass, for coming on and giving us your time today. Really appreciate it.
And thanks for having me. Thanks for asking me. It's been fun.
So much fun. Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.